All right, so Chiefs or Buccaneers? Who's going for the Chiefs? Wow, okay, Buccaneers? Now, hold on, let me ask you a question. Are you going for the Buccaneers because you want to see Tom Brady win his 7th Super Bowl? Or are you really a Buccaneers fan? Somebody's like, nah. Doritos. How many of you just watching the game for the commercials? Can't go against Tom Brady. Okay, there you go. Well, you know, I'm kind of glad it's the Super Bowl. Today we're talking about finances, and at least I know where everybody stands today. So I got to set the record straight just as we jump in. We're starting a brand new series, and it's called Matters of the Heart. And you need to know right up front, I am not a financial expert. Surprise. So if you're hoping today to walk out of here and I've given you this amazing 3-point, 5-point strategy that you can just dive right into, and then, man, you've got a handle on your finances, and you walk out here like, ooh, I'm in complete control. I'm sorry, I'm going to fail you. I know, it's a shock, right? I am not a finance expert. So I want to start with this question. What captures your heart? What captures your heart? What is it that keeps you up at night? What is it that causes you at work to lose focus or to become distracted and you find yourself daydreaming? Better yet, what is it that causes you to worry? I mean, right now, when we think about where we are, today there are hundreds of thousands of people that will wake up with the burden of severe debt. And again, I'm not a financial expert, and when it comes to debt, I'm just as guilty as the next guy. Been there, done that, I've got the t-shirt. And so I think that I would do you a complete disservice if I just simply went in and I just began to give you this strategy or this 5-prong approach or some method for how you're to conquer your debt if we don't get to the root of the issue. Because no strategy, no process, no system is ever going to work or succeed in the long run if we never, ever get to the root of the problem. It would be like me teaching a boy to throw a football, but never teaching him about the game. Never teaching him about the offense or the defense or how to work with coaches or his teammates. He may be a great athlete and he may have a phenomenal arm, but that on its own will never win the big game. And the same thing's true when it comes to debt. If I just simply approach it with, go take this class, go listen to this person on the radio, be a part of this seminar, which are all great things. And those are things that I think all of us should participate in and get as much counsel and wisdom as possible. But again, those are only things if you never get to the root of the issue, if you never dive deep into the problem. I think it's both impossible and dangerous to solve our debt problem by only talking about money. I think for us, when we get to the root of the issue, it should have a distinct image of who Jesus is in your life and in mine. The gospel should be rooted or at the center of your finances, my finances, your debt, my debt. And if the gospel isn't at the center of it, if the gospel is simply just the fact that Jesus died on the cross for your sins so that you could have life, so that you could spend eternity with God, then you've missed so much more in the gospel than you've ever thought there was. If the gospel isn't at the center of your finances, if Jesus isn't at the center of your finances, then you're going to miss something. We must begin to allow the gospel of Jesus to begin to correct our assumptions about debt and begin to shape the way that we spend and live our lives in a way that we can begin to bring glory and honor to God. When you think of what it is that you value most, Your real value or your core belief is revealed by what causes you to worry. Your real value or your core belief, it's revealed by what causes you to worry. What is it that keeps you up at night? What is it that causes you to lay awake? Because I would tell you, whatever it is that has captured your heart is what is most important to you. It's what keeps you up at night. It's what you think about more than anything. And there's so many different things. It's not just finances or debt. It's our career. It's our relationships. It's our status. It's the things that we want to accomplish, the places that we want to go. And we've all been there, and those things have captured us so deeply that it begins to affect the way that we live, think, and act. So again, what is it that captures you? I believe there are several reasons for debt: ignorance, indulgence, poor planning, and emergencies. And we all know what debt is. Debt is owing somebody something that we cannot pay for. Debt is, I believe, first and foremost, and don't miss this, I believe it's a spiritual issue. I believe it's a trust issue. And I know you may be thinking, well, hold on. You don't know my situation. You don't know where I'm at. You don't know what I've had to deal with, the struggles that I've faced. You're not alone. I would imagine that for most of us in this room, at some point in our life, whether it's now or it has been or it will be, we have experienced debt. To that place where our money tells us where it has to go versus us telling it where we want it to go. It's a lack of trusting. And Jesus really begins to unfold that for us in Matthew chapter 6. He begins to unfold this idea of where is it that you hold, or what is it that you hold onto? What is it that you value most? What is it that is the one thing that you give all your time, attention, and effort to? And in Matthew chapter 6 and verse 21, he says this: "For where your treasure is, there your heart will also be." Where your treasure is, what is it that you value? Is it a relationship? Is it a promotion at work? Is it getting the newest and best thing? If you remember last week when Brett was wrapping up our series For You, and he had that top 10 searches, and I believe one of those in that top 10 was the PS5. Where is our treasure? I mean, if we say that Jesus is the most important thing, that he is the center of everything in our life, that I trust him with everything, then why is it that I still try to control my finances? I mean, I'm just being transparent because I'm the guilty one here. I mean, I've taken the Dave Ramsey classes. I've been through financial peace. My wife and I went through it years ago, and it was amazing. It was life-changing for us, so much so that it began to put us on a path where we began to experience financial freedom like we'd never experienced. And it didn't matter that we had started, with baby step one. And if you've been through Dave Ramsey, you know what I'm talking about. Baby step one is emergency fund. Your $1,000, you put it back. You put it back somewhere where you can't spend it. Emergency is not a drink at Sonic. And so you take baby step number one and you put that emergency fund back, and then you step into number two, and number two is the debt snowball. And if you know the debt snowball, you start with the easiest one first and you pay it off, and then you take what you were paying there and you put more to the next one, and then to the next one, to the next one, until all your debt's eliminated. And man, when you begin to see the progress that you make, I remember Tracy and I going, this is amazing, it really works. And then 4 or 5 years went by, and it was kind of like, how did I get back here? I mean, I did everything that I was supposed to. I mean, I followed Dave Ramsey's plan to a T, but I never really dealt with the real issue. I just kind of put a Band-Aid on a bigger problem, which was ultimately my heart. See, there isn't a money problem. There's a heart problem. Because I know for most of us, the solution is, well, if I could just make more, that would solve my debt problem. If I could win the lottery, that would solve a lot of my problems. If that investment would just come through, everything would be okay. But again, if we never get to the real issue at hand, how will we ever deal with the problem? Again, it's a heart problem. I believe, financially speaking, there are three types of people: the haves, the have-nots, and those who have not paid for what they have. Debt has become the way of the American life. In 2020, the average credit card indebted family, don't miss this, allocated 21% of their income to pay debt. 21%. We must begin to understand that when debt rules, debt runs. As a nation, America is deeply in debt to the tune of $23.3 trillion. And this is of the latest results from quarter number 3 of 2020. So this is fairly recent. Now, America is not the only country in debt. China is right behind us, along with Japan and Germany. But before we begin to point the fingers at them, America still leads the way. And here's some amazing facts about personal debt. Let's get off the government and where they are when it comes to their debt. Let's just look at our personal debt. According to the latest Federal Reserve, the average household debt that we carry is in the neighborhood of $140,000. And that doesn't include the mortgage. That's credit card debt, that's personal loans, that's car debt, and school debt. If you know what school debt's like, I didn't know what was school debt. I married school debt. I'm sorry, Tracy. She always gets on to me. But I'm paying for that. Can I tell you a secret? If you're a young person, don't take out more debt than you're going to make. Don't take out more debt than you're going to make. My wife went to private Christian university. She became a school teacher. You're a school teacher, you know what that's like. And it's crazy to me when I think about it. $140,000 is the average debt. From the U.S. Census Bureau, it shows that the median household income right now across America is $65,000. But let's take it and make it a little bit more personal. In a 10-mile radius of this church, it's closer to $100,000. Now, if you're like me, you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't make that much. But maybe you're a dual income. It's household. How many people in your house? Even my wife, we sit there and we still don't make that much. But it goes on when I began to look at it a little bit deeper. The total credit card debt in America right now, $900 billion. Some say already it's reached $1 trillion. Debt in auto loans, $1.2 trillion. It climbed $48 billion from a year ago. The total mortgage debt in America is $9 trillion. It climbed $380 billion in 1 year. Man, what a virus can do. If you've seen it like I have, I don't know what your blocks look like. It's like, hey, I got new neighbors. Where did they come from? I didn't even know they were selling the house. It's crazy to think, but that's not the fastest growing. None of those are the fastest growing debts. The fastest growing debt in America right now that has ballooned to $1.4 trillion is student loan debt. When I begin to look at this, we've got a problem, and I've got to be honest. I don't have the answers when it comes to solving all of America's problems. I'm not the expert. I didn't go to school for finances. But I don't think the issue is a money problem. I think it's a heart problem. What we've ultimately done is we've traded what Jesus has for us for the American dream. And we've all bought into it. I'm guilty. I've bought into it. Hook, line, and sinker. Well, this is what my family had, and this is what they experienced. I want to make sure that I do better and that I am better. I mean, that's the American dream, right? A bigger house, a nicer car, better vacations. And we've sold the gospel for that American dream. Because that has become our treasure. That has become what is most important, what it is that we value more than anything else. And I know I can't be alone. I can't be the only one that's guilty. And again, I've taken the Dave Ramsey classes. And in Dave Ramsey, he always talks about in a relationship that there's two kinds of people. There's the saver and there's the spender. I'm the spender. Anybody else, or is it just me? All right, I got somebody that's honest with me. I'm the spender. I mean, when it comes to it, I didn't have a good handle or idea when it came to finances. In my house, growing up, we didn't talk about money. I mean, that was like, no, money, you can talk about anything else you want, but we don't talk about money. And even Tracy, when I began to date her, even in her family, they didn't talk about money. I mean, money was one of those things, hey, that's between mom and dad. Whatever happens between them, yeah. But what I've learned as a parent is opening that up and allowing my kids to see the reality of where we are and what it looks like to be responsible, to live a life that honors and glorifies God with my finances. I mean, so much so that our kids, they know what we make and they know where our money goes. I know it's crazy. But if I'm going to be responsible as a parent in influencing that next generation to be better than me, then it starts with me being completely transparent and honest with them. I mean, I know what it's like to feel like I've got the debt creeping in and putting pressure on me. And even the writer of Proverbs writes about this. And it even talks about, in Proverbs 22:7, it says, the rich rule over the poor and the borrower is a slave to the lender. I know what it feels like to be a slave. I know what it feels like asking myself, well, how am I going to do this? I mean, my money's telling me where it has to go. I can't do it the other way around. I know what that's like, and maybe you do. It's a heart issue. It's not a money issue. I don't think there's ever been a time in history quite like today where it's so easy at the click of the button to get whatever I want. I mean, there's never been a time where it's so easy. I mean, especially during this last year, because we've purchased everything online. I mean, I can go into Amazon. It's like, what's out there? That's neat. Didn't know I need it. Click. That infomercial at night? I don't know why I'm up, but wow, that's cool. I don't know how I'll need it. Click. Okay, I can't be the only one. I mean, is there a support group for this? But here's the whole thing with that. It's easy. The click of a mouse, the click of a button, it's easy to get what I want. But the reality begins to sink in when the credit card bill shows up. Or I look at my bank statement. I'm like, where did that go? How did I spend that on that? And there was this huge shift in my life. And again, because of financial peace, because of Dave Ramsey and his resources, where he talked about, hey, if you want to actually be a manager, a steward of your money, you got to feel it. So I went to cash. I have cash all the time. I know that's a weird thing in our society because, I mean, everything else is, nope, you got to use a card. You got to use a card. And the thing with the card is I can swipe it, and I never feel it. And it just goes. And then I go look at my statement. I'm going, how did I spend that much? What did we buy? I mean, how is it every time I go to Target, whether I buy 2 things or 100 things, I still spend over $100? Don't go to Target. But with cash, it's like, oh, wait, I feel what I'm doing. Our decisions determine our direction and quality of life. Our decisions determine our direction and our quality of life. Making the decision to say, you know what, if I use cash instead of a card, I'm probably going to manage my money a lot better. And I really saw this transfer into my kids. When Caleb was younger, Tracy and I instituted this policy in our house because maybe you experienced this. I don't know if you did, but when my kid was like in the later ages of grade school into junior high, this is my oldest who's 16, he was always coming home with an invitation to a birthday party. Now, I'm not a Scrooge, so don't misunderstand me, but it seemed like every single week, every Saturday, there was a birthday party. I was like, whoa, all right, I guess we got to buy a gift. At some point, Tracy and I are going, all right, hold on. Every Saturday can't be a birthday party, and every Saturday we can't afford to go out and buy a gift or get a card and put money in the gift. So we instituted this new policy. We said, Caleb, if you want to go to a birthday party, you have to pay for half the gift, or you have to put half the money in. It began to change the way that he thought about birthday parties. He began to decide, well, do I really want to go to that party? Do I really like that person, or I just get invited because they want a gift? And we all know what that's like. I mean, we've all, okay, come on. And then he got into junior high. And in junior high, it seemed like every time I turned around, we had to buy a t-shirt. I'm like, come on, and every t-shirt was $20. It's like, really? You have to have a specific gym t-shirt and a class t-shirt and a this t-shirt? So same rule. We looked at Caleb and said, hey, if you want the t-shirts, you got to pay for half. He was like, well, I don't think I want the t-shirt that bad. You're darn tootin', you don't want the t-shirt that bad? But our decisions matter. It determines the direction and the quality of our life. So simply meaning, what I do today, it impacts tomorrow. What I do today, it impacts tomorrow, whether we think it does or not. And for so many of us, we get caught in the moment. Whether it's buying that car, buying that house, or buying that whatever. And then maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, you have what's called buyer's remorse. If I'd only known then what I know now. It's interesting because Tracy and I, when we first got married and we moved to Arizona, I was out of school. She was still finishing up college, and the church that we were part of, we got involved into a young marrieds group. And so these are all early 20s. And this early 20s group, they were all influencing each other. It's time to go buy a house. And then Tracy and I are looking at each other going, buy a house? Seriously? So we did what every other young couple. We're like, I guess. I mean, everybody else is doing it. I guess that's what we're supposed to. So we start looking at houses, and then I get that sticker shock. It's like, houses really cost this? And now you got to go back with me, because this is back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So houses weren't quite as expensive as they are now, but as a young couple, that seemed like a lot of money. Tracy and I decided in that moment that we weren't ready to buy a house. And I think we did what a lot of people would say is crazy. We waited almost 10 years before we bought our first house. I know that sounds crazy. People are like, oh, you're throwing good money away. No, it wasn't. We were honoring God. We really felt like God said, wait, it's not your time. And we felt like in that we weren't throwing money away because we were being obedient. The decision we made in that moment impacted us later, because when we went to buy our house, we were ready to buy a house to where we owned the home. It didn't own us. And then what happened? The market crashed. The market crashed. And I watched that house that I bought that was worth this, went to this. And I watched all my neighbors, all of them on edge. I can't afford this house. I can't afford this house. And I watched them move one after another because they couldn't afford their house. And then I watched new people come in and buy a house, the same one that I was living in, for half the price that I paid for mine. But Tracy and I sat there and said, we're okay, we're good, because our house doesn't own us. We own it. We bought a small, modest home for the two of us and an almost 2-year-old. It was enough. And we sat in that house and we waited and we waited, even after we had our second kid, even when we were busting at the seams going, all right, there's not enough space in this house, but it's not time. It's not time. We got to hold on to it. We got to make a good decision because that good decision will help us ultimately later so we don't incur the debt that we don't need. Money is a good tool, but it's a terrible God. Money is a good tool, but it's a terrible God. And for some of us, we've become so rooted into this dream of what we want to become and what we want to have that it has separated itself completely from Jesus because we've bought into the American dream. And then Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament, he wrote a book called Romans. And in Romans, he kind of flips this script on this idea of debt. Because I want you to hear this, and I want you to hear this well. I'm not saying that the Bible tells you don't go into debt. I'm not saying that. I don't want you to walk out of here, oh, the pastor said if I'm in debt, I'm a horrible person, I'm this. I'm not saying that. But this is what Paul says when it comes to debt, and I want you to hear this. In Romans 13:8, it says, let no debt remain outstanding. Okay, that sounds good. If I incur debt, so if I take out a car loan, a home loan, a school loan, or whatever loan, I'm going to pay that back. I'm going to be responsible, and I'm going to pay it back. So be responsible, but this is where he flips it. Because then he talks about a good debt. He says, accept the continuing debt to love one another. That if you are going to have a debt, if you're going to owe anything, owe the fact that you love other people. That's the debt. I mean, he paid the ultimate debt for us, the debt that you and I could never pay, that sin debt. I mean, on our own, none of us stand worthy enough to go before God and say, here I am, just as I am, all on my own. No, we had to have somebody pay our debt. And Jesus paid that debt by going to the cross and dying on the cross for your sins and for mine. And out of love for us. And so for that, you and I should love others the way that he's loved us. I mean, we've talked about it for over a year as a church, that we want to be a good neighbor, that we want to love our neighbors. I mean, even in this last series that we did called For You, I mean, he is for us, so much so that he died on the cross, and because he's for us, we need to be for each other and for those around us. Simply by loving them the way that Jesus has loved us. So again, I could just simply go back and give you a 5-step process on how to overcome your debt. But if you don't get to the root of the issue, you're just going to find yourself right back in debt. In this section, Paul really centers on the heart of the problem, the human heart. The human heart, because it's sinful. And it's only through Christ that it can be changed. On its own, it's selfish. But through Christ and what he did on the cross and through his grace, it can be changed. Which ultimately leads us to a place of making the decision to begin to live a life of discipline. Discipline. Discipline in choosing what you want most over what you want now. Discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. And this has been probably one of the best things that I've taught my kids. And you know what it's like, because your kids get Christmas money, or they get birthday money, or the surprise from grandma kind of money, or whatever. And if your kids are like my kids, that money's burning a hole in their pocket. I mean, it's like, I got to spend it. I got to get this. I got to get that. I got to have it. I got to have it. And the question is always, why? Why do you need that now? Is that really what you need now? And when it comes to our oldest, because of some of the things that we've done, Caleb has become super disciplined with his money. At 16, we made sure we opened up his own checking and savings account that he managed on his own. Now, we have a savings account off to the side that we have for him, but he has his own checking and savings account. And because we've been super open and transparent about our finances, Caleb made the decision that, hey, I never want to go below X in my savings, and I never want to go below X in my checking. And so he's always asking the question. Even yesterday, he was looking at me, he's like, Dad, I noticed that my check hasn't been transferred from the savings account that you have into my accounts yet. I'm like, okay, my bad. Why? Well, I don't want my account to fall below such and such, and I had to get gas in my truck. Like, okay, I got you. And even so much so where he's strategizing and saying, okay, down the road, I want this, but I can't have this until I get to X. But so often, we live within the moment that I got to have it now. And then again, we have buyer's remorse because we're not disciplined. And again, it's a heart issue. The reason that I'm not disciplined is because I'm more committed to the things of this world than I am to Jesus. I'm committed to getting more and having more and being more and becoming more. My treasure is more of this or that. My treasure isn't Jesus. So what is it that captures your heart? Like so many, I still look for life where I can't find it. I'm still way too attracted to stuff. I'm guilty. I'm way too skilled, and my wife will tell you this. I'm way too skilled at justifying what I want to buy and why it's okay to buy it. It's a struggle. I struggle with these things because I'm more aligned to kingdom of self than I am the kingdom of God at times. And that's where the whole issue of debt comes into play. Because I'm more committed to the things of this world than I am to Jesus. And so I become paralyzed. I can become completely and totally paralyzed. And I know that I can't be the only person. And so it kind of leaves us in a place of deciding, well, what am I going to do? Am I at that place where my next step needs to be, you know what? I need to surrender my life fully to Jesus. Not just my life, but everything about my life. Because it's easy to say, I'll surrender to you my eternity so that I can spend eternity with you in heaven. But what about everything else? What about your finances? What about your debt? What about your career? What about your kids? None of it's ours anyway. It's all His. He just wants us to be stewards of what's already His, to manage what already belongs to Him. So maybe today it's a place of surrender. You need to surrender your life and everything to Jesus. Maybe you'd say, you know what, I've already done that. My life is His, but I still have this problem. Maybe you need to surrender your finances to Him and actually trust that God's way actually works, that His way is better than what the world has to say. And again, maybe you've done all of those things, and the next step for you is to go into a Financial Peace University class, to say, you know what, I've surrendered it to Him, but I need the tools necessary now. My heart, my allegiance for my heart isn't to this world. My allegiance and my heart is to Jesus. But I need the tools necessary to overcome this. Sign up for an FPU class. I would encourage you, we have one that's coming up soon, more information to come. But when it does come, I would encourage you to sign up, commit. It's only 9 weeks. And I promise you, it will change your life. Maybe it's to use the resources on that mountainridge.org/4U page, to use those financial resources that we've tapped into people that are the experts, not me. You're not going to see a video of me saying, hey, this is how you should spend your money, because I'm not going to give you the best advice. But use these experts to help you to move forward so that at the end of the day, your money doesn't own you. You own it. Will you pray with me?